Long ago, there was a great army aiming to conquer a neighboring kingdom. The army consisted of thousands of soldiers and armored personnel carriers, and they were making their way through a dense forest to reach their goal. As they advanced, the ground shook beneath their feet, and their voices split the sky. But deep within this forest, there was an active ant colony. Under the leadership of a wise queen, this was a thriving and hard-working colony. The ants worked hard to collect food and build their colony, and they lived in harmony with nature. They had no idea about the army approaching their lands. One day, while the little ant Zaina was collecting food, she discovered the path the army was taking. Zaina was a curious and intelligent ant, and she noticed that something was unusual. There was an annoying sound, and the ground was shaking under her feet. Zaina returned to the colony and told the queen about this huge army approaching. The queen was afraid. The attack would have been disastrous for their small colony. The queen decided to take urgent measures, but she knew that force would not be enough to confront the great army. The queen thought of a clever plan. She asked Zaina to lead a group of ants to the road the army was taking. The ants used their intelligence to build a series of barriers and obstacles along the way. The ants began to build small dams of dirt and branches and place some sticky materials on the ground. At first, the army did not notice these small barriers, but as time passed, the obstacles began to affect their progress. The army's movement became slow, and the soldiers began to complain about the difficulties they were facing. The checkpoints also led to tension and confusion among the army. Army leaders used this opportunity to examine the situation. They discovered that these obstacles were holding them back, and that there might be a bigger problem behind them. However, instead of looking for the root cause, they began to try ineffective solutions. While the ants worked tirelessly, Zaina continued to guide the group and coordinate their efforts. They used all their ability to carry out their plans efficiently. They did not have the ability to directly confront the army, but they used their intelligence to create challenges for the large army. After several days of persistent efforts, the army began to feel frustrated. The leaders eventually decided to move in a different direction to avoid further trouble. When they chose another path, the ants had completed their work, and the forest was once again a safe place. Zaina returned to her colony, where she was received with great thanks by the queen and the workers. The victory was small, but it was big for the ants. The ants proved that intelligence and planning could trump brute force. From that day on, the ant became a symbol of courage and intelligence, and the great army became a story shared by everyone as a lesson in the strength of the mind versus physical strength.